There are a ton of mistakes that you can make when you go to sell your home, and today we are going to be hitting it from every single angle, just so that way when it comes time for you to list your home, you're not going to fall victim to any of these possible mistakes. That way you can get the maximum price for when you do transfer that to the new homeowner. Now, my name's Sam Oler, and I'm a realtor in the greater Cleveland area. I help a lot of people buy and sell here every single year. So if you're in the market, feel free to reach out to me. Whether you're 9 months out or 9 weeks out, I'm going to be able to help you. All of my contact information is down in the description. So with that being said, let's get right into what it looked like in previous years for sellers and what it's looking like right now as far as the seller's market goes. Now, a few years ago when the pandemic happened, houses were going very high over list price because of the demand, just with all of the interest rates and people wanting to move. And normally with the high demand comes higher prices. And you were seeing anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000 above list price that these houses were going for. It was honestly kind of insane. But nowadays, it's kind of mellowed out a little bit. You're seeing houses go above list price still. However, you have to have everything in place properly. You have to have the right price. You have to have the right marketing. You have to generate that interest to get a lot of people bidding on the home to drive that price up. Now, where we're at today, when you're in a multiple offer situation, you're probably going to see $5,000 to $20,000 over list price. We're not really getting those super high prices anymore. Now, it's important to keep in mind that those prices come from demand. So if you have a lot of interest in the home, you're going to get it. But if you aren't getting a large amount of showings right off the bat, you're probably not going to be able to drum up that business. And it kind of puts the buyer in the driver's seat when it comes time to offer. So you want to make sure that you're doing everything correctly to draw that demand. So I'm going to start this off hot with the main thing that is going to draw the attention to your listing, and that is going to be the price of it. Now, when you go to list your home, you want to make sure that you price it aggressively, because we're not in the same market that we were 10, 15 years ago, where you list your home high and expect people to offer a little bit lower on that listing price. It's just not how it works anymore. If someone sees you with a high list price, they're going to think you're unreasonable. They're probably not even going to want to offer. Now, when you do go a little bit under what market value is, you are able to drum up a lot of interest because everyone wants a deal. And when you start getting into that scenario, you're going to be able to get that really high interest. You make it sound good to everyone else. And when it sounds good to everyone else, they're probably going to start offering. And once you get into that multiple offer situation, the buyer loses any sort of negotiation power that they have during the transaction, and then they start adding to the value of the home. So it's really important to list your home at or slightly under market value, just so that you drum up that interest and put yourself in a better position when it comes time to sell. Now, moving into the next point, we're going to be covering neglected maintenance. You want to make sure that when you go to list your home that it's in good condition, because people are going to want that turnkey home that they don't have to lift a finger when they move in. It's going to be something that is going to be super easy because they're going to have an effortless transition. And statistically, houses that are in better condition will sell faster for a higher price. Now, I'm not saying do a full remodel on the house, but anything that needs maintenance, do it. Repair that hole in the wall, give it a fresh coat of paint, have a professional cleaner come through. It's really going to make a difference when you go to list the home because it's going to feel clean. And that is one of the main impressions that go on a buyer. They want something that they feel like they don't have to do any work to. The other thing with neglected maintenance is take some time and have it inspected by a professional inspector, and that'll tell you everything you need to know about the home. You can get everything fixed and then leave the inspection on the counter for someone to read, because they'll know that you're not trying to hide anything. Those are just a couple little tips though. Once you have everything cleaned up and maintained, we're going to be moving into the next point on the list, and that is going to be proper home staging. Now, I'm sure you've been through houses where the couch is way too big or the room's laid out a little strangely, so you have a weird feeling when you're in there. It's just something that takes your eye off the ball as a buyer, and you want to remove any sort of chance of disqualification from a buyer when they're walking the home, because it's only going to improve your chances to a successful sale in the end. Now, I'm kind of indifferent on staging your home in the greater Cleveland area. It does help, don't get me wrong, but it is really expensive compared to the value of the homes. So depending on what your price range is for what you're listing at, it might not be worth doing. So if you reach out to me, I'll be able to help you make that decision in the end. But my general rule of thumb is a house that's freshly cleaned and painted, you're not really gonna have to worry about people not being able to picture their stuff in that home. The next thing that is a big factor in getting people to your house is going to be the listing description and the photos that are taken. Now, when you hire a real estate agent, you're gonna wanna make sure that either they're a professional photographer if they're taking photos of your home, not using their iPhone, or you wanna make sure that they are hiring a professional photographer. Me personally, I'm not a photographer. You're hiring me to sell your house, so I'm going to hire someone who shoots houses every single day. They're gonna be able to take pictures of your house in the best light. They're gonna take from flattering angles. They're not gonna show any sort of messy closets. It's gonna be kind of a team effort between you and them to make sure that the mess is off the counters. There's no soap bottles or huge messes in the showers. You wanna make sure that you get a professional photographer in there, because if it is a bad set of pictures for the home, that's just another way for someone to disqualify the house before they even see it. You could have an immaculate house, but the buyer can never figure that out because they never even got to the point of seeing the house because they thought it was a bad one just based purely on the pictures. Now, me personally, I don't really read the descriptions for listings. However, a lot of home buyers do. And when you write it, you want to write it in a way that is flowing throughout the house. So that way it's telling a story and keeps the buyer's attention on the house itself and all of the great features that it has to offer throughout. Now, that's another thing that I personally delegate out because I am not an English major. I'm okay at writing, but the fact of the matter is that someone who does this every single day is going to have a lot better writing product than I will, just because my job is to focus on getting your home sold. The next thing on the list of mistakes that homeowners make before they go to sell is not depersonalizing their home. Now, that can be something that ranges from having quirky colored walls all the way to just having pictures on the wall or on the countertops. You want to make sure that there are no pictures out because you want the buyer to be focusing on the house itself. You do not want them to be focusing on who lives here, because I've seen it time and time again. We're walking through houses, they stop to look at the wall of pictures to see if they know the seller, and then that ultimately takes their eye off the prize, which is the home itself. As far as the quirky colored paints, you want to make sure that it is neutral because you want to appeal to as many people as possible. Painting does not cost a lot to do, and if a buyer wants to change that when they come in, they can. But if they see something that does not resonate with them very well, they're going to see it as a negative in the house because they don't see it in the same light that we do when we go to list it. Next up on the list is going to be people who ignore curb appeal. Now, after you do all this work marketing your home, getting people to show up, you want to make sure they have a good first impression as soon as they step out of the car, because the exterior of the home is the first thing that they're going to see. If there's any cracks in the driveway, you want to make sure that those get sealed, or if it's really bad, it might be worth replacing the concrete or at least having a concrete leveler come out to make it look nicer. If you've got peeling or chipping paint, you probably are going to get some sort of value out of repainting that or at least touching it up. The roof is one of the big ticket items that people look at on the exterior, and you'll at least want to make sure that everything is kept up with. That goes back to the maintenance. You can have someone come in and seal where the flashing meets chimneys and all of that stuff. Depending on the age of the roof, you might have a little bit of pushback at the inspection period, but in my opinion, you don't really get a whole lot of value for the cost of replacing the roof. So I usually suggest making that kind of a game time decision during that inspection period, because some buyers will care, but others will not. But I will say having that new roof is going to increase the odds of it selling because they don't have to worry about that super big investment, and it'll be set for another 30 years to come. Next up on the list is going to be limiting showings. You do not want to make it hard for people to get into the house. Everyone's got different schedules. Some people can only see houses in the mornings because they work second or third shift. So when you start to limit it to certain times, it makes it incredibly hard for getting people in there at the same time and drumming up that interest in your home. So the best thing that you can do is be extremely flexible with this topic. Next on the list is going to be failure at marketing the property. Now, this is my personal bread and butter. I love marketing houses. I have a lot that goes into my listing campaign, but there are some people who just list it on the MLS and wait for a buyer to come. When you work with someone like me, I'm investing in the listing before it even sells. I'm doing that professional photography. I'm having a professional videographer come in and film me walking through the house, explaining all the best parts of it, just so that way it paints the best picture for the new buyer. I'm going to have targeted mail go out to people who might be interested in buying your home or know someone who is interested. I've got a huge database of people who I'm ready to send your listing to, so that way you can save a little bit on the commissions. when you're interviewing agents, you're going to want to make sure that you have the person who is going to get your house in front of the most people, because in the end, that is the name of the game with marketing. Another common mistake that sellers make is that they are present for showings. You never want to make that the case, because people will not express their feelings freely. You want them to feel comfortable enough with the buyer's agent so that way they can ask questions while they're there. So one, either they don't forget them, or two, they just disqualify the house altogether because they didn't feel comfortable at it. If you do need to stay close to the house because of a pet or something, either take them on a car ride or take them on a walk. Just do something with them that isn't at the house, just to make the buyer's life a little bit easier. Next up on the list of mistakes is not decluttering the home or keeping it clean after it's listed, because that just goes back to the buyer psychology. You want to make sure that they are feeling super fresh as soon as they walk into this house. You want to do everything in your power to keep a positive perspective on the house that they are walking through. Next on the list is overlooking minor cosmetic updates. Now, this goes back to not rehabbing the whole house, but making sure everything is clean. If there's a hole in the wall, you want to make sure you have those patched. If a window has a crack in it, you want that to be replaced. If any of the flooring is separating, buyers can see that as a huge expense. So it's worth tackling that stuff up front, so that way you don't have to worry about a buyer potentially not buying your house because of something small. A big mistake that I see a lot of people making are ignoring feedback from potential buyers. Now, I feel like everyone is going to come through your house and say that it's priced too high, just because everyone is a pro in this market. So I usually don't pay much attention to the opinion on price. But if they say something that they found negative during the walkthrough, you want to make sure you address that as soon as possible, because other buyers could potentially have the same issue with the house and not buy it because of that. Whereas if you fixed it immediately, you would be able to negate that and potentially bring in those multiple offers again, or give yourself the best chances of bringing yourself towards that position. Now, everyone who is hiring a realtor to sell their home should be interviewing at least a couple of them, just so that way they can see who they mesh well with, because realistically, you could toss a rock in a crowd of people and hit a realtor, because they're just really common to come across. And if you just work with a family member who just got their license, or maybe has been selling a little while but doesn't sell a bunch of houses, you could be leaving thousands on the table because they're not marketing the same way that someone else would market your home. And they may not even have the market knowledge about your specific area that another person would have. So it's really important that you do your due diligence, because this is such a valuable asset that you're trusting someone to sell. You want to make sure you're getting the maximum value. Another mistake that people make are not properly preparing for inspections. Now, there's a few precursors that you can do to make sure that the inspection goes a little bit more successfully. Some of the minor updates that I see commonly on inspections are going to include anything from like missing outlet covers, no junction boxes, just random splices in attic areas. On the electrical, you wouldn't believe how many times I've seen bathroom fans that were just vented into the attic and not outside. Missing GFIs in places that could potentially have water are a big one as well. So it's worth taking some time to run through your house just to make sure that the inspection is going to come back very clean, so that way the buyer feels the most comfortable with the house that they are buying. Last but not least on our list of mistakes that sellers commonly make when they list their home is going to be too emotionally attached. Now, I get it. You've probably made a ton of memories in your home. You probably lived there for years at a time. But when it comes time to sell, you're transferring that opportunity for someone else to make memories in that home and make it their own. So it's really important that you operate based on facts and not your emotions. When you operate based off of emotions when you're selling, it can lead to unreasonable expectations and put you in a negative headspace, which you don't want. That's part of why you hire a realtor, because they're going to be a third party who manages that in case you do get a little bit stressed out. You want to make sure that there's a level-headed person on the playing field, so that way there's no hard feelings when you do go to transfer if for whatever reason something bad happens during the process. Plus, the other thing about having that third party available, you'll have someone to bounce ideas off of who's on your side. We are professionals in the area of real estate, so we are going to be able to tell you what's best if you ask our opinion. And no matter what you decide, we're going to fight for what you want, whether it be related to price or fixing something during an inspection. We're going to make sure that we get you the most amount of money when you go to sell your home. Now, that was a list of 16 different things, so I know it was a lot of information, and I hope it helped you out. Even if you're not selling in the Cleveland market, it is going to help you with whatever your market is. So like I said, if you're thinking about moving to the greater Cleveland area, feel free to reach out to me. My name's Sam Oler and I'm a realtor here, but all my contact information is down in the description. So if you find yourself down there, before you go off of this page, click that like button and subscribe, because it's going to keep you up to date with everything that's happening in the greater Cleveland area. But with all that being said, I'm going to leave the video there. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.